So hi, why are fuel prices so high? Okay, I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about wind farms. I'm going to be talking about electric vehicles. So you need to let me explain. First of all, my name's Dave. Welcome to my channel. Be better prepared. It's not normally the sort of channel that you get this on, but I had to do this video because I've just been sat in a petrol station and I paid £1.88 a litre, which I know is quite cheap for some people, but for me, up in the north, that's expensive. Okay, so if you could, like and all the subscribing and stuff that goes on down the bottom, fantastic. So, why are fuel prices so high? All right, so I'm going to be talking about oil companies, fuel companies, energy companies, okay, and the fact that you might have noticed that the oil companies seem to have picked up the tab for paying for all our wind farms, all the infrastructure for electric vehicles, etc. So, for example, BP have pledged that they were going to spend £18 billion by 2030 on infrastructure for electric vehicles in the UK. All right. So, why are oil companies getting involved with this? Well, it's driven by the government. The government have made lots of political decisions and pledges and driven themselves into a corner eventually, because they've said, we're going to get all this sorted. I'm going to say wind farms, all this carbon neutral, everything like that. And they've given themselves a certain year that they're going to get it all sorted by. And they've got this massive political agenda. And they don't have the money, or they didn't have the money at the time they were making all these fantastic promises. So bear that in mind. Lots of money required to do these wind farms and infrastructure for electric vehicles, etc. Now, at the beginning of the pandemic, when everybody stopped doing everything, then the demand for oil basically plummeted. It just collapsed through the floor, okay, almost overnight. So the oil companies reacted to that, and they basically drastically reduced, in many cases, their ability to produce oil. So they scaled it down, okay, as you would do. If you're not going to sell it, leave it in the ground. Okay, right. So everything's fine at that point. Then, as we came out of the pandemic and then people started to do things again, the demand for oil went up and was, scheduled to go. It would have gone back up to where it would have been pre-pandemic levels. But the oil companies were staggeringly slow at reacting to this and upscaling their ability to produce oil. So slowly that, in my opinion, staggeringly slowly, that you could almost say it was deliberate. Okay, in my opinion. So you have this idea that you've got high demand with artificially low production. And like I say, I cannot believe that a multi-million-pound industry such as the oil industry could not forecast that production would be required as everybody came out of the pandemic. It just strikes me as completely ridiculous. So somebody knew all about this and deliberately, in my opinion, withheld the increase in production that's required. So we've now got increase in demand with low production, and the prices started to go back up again. Now, this is before Russia invaded the Ukraine, mind. Prices started to go back up again, and they were going up, every week. So now we've got this coincidence that on the one hand, you've got this demand for like eye-wateringly amounts of money required to fix all the infrastructure that's required, make all the wind farms and everything carbon neutral. All that money's required. It's got to come from somewhere. And on the other hand, the oil companies, who've basically been given the task of producing all this money, are now getting lots of money towards the end of the pandemic from increased fuel prices. And it's not just fuel; it's the oil that's going to burn to produce electricity for your home and everything as well. Then the Russians decided to invade the Ukraine. Now, we're going to talk about wheat on other videos and stuff. And yes, there will be a wheat shortage, which is all because of Russia. But when you talk about oil, okay, and bear in mind that Russia, apart from Saudi Arabia, produces more oil than anybody else. Like second in the world. It depends what you look at, but the second largest oil producer on the planet. And our governments decided that we're not going to buy Russian oil as sanctions against Russia. Now, I'm not going to say whether that's right or wrong or political, anything like that. I'm just saying that it was our governments took the decision to stop buying Russian oil. So you've already got high demand, then you've got this artificially low production, which, staggeringly low. And then if you take off the market all the Russian oil, you take away the second largest producer. This high demand that you've already got with an extra low supply now, because the Russians aren't involved anymore, the price is going to go through the roof. Now, I find it inconceivable that our governments, I'm going to say the Treasury, did not know that the prices were going to go through the roof like they're doing. Okay, it's obviously, how can they not realise that if you stop buying Russian oil, the price is going to go up? Of course they knew the price was going to go up. They knew. They're not daft. But I would suggest that they knew it was going to go. But you know what? We're now getting all this money that we didn't have before to fund all these projects that we've said we're going to do by certain years, and our political futures rest on this. So you know what? The political agenda has become more important than the pound in your pocket. That's what I think. Okay, and they know about this, and they've always known about it, and I think it's just a cynical way of getting the money required in order to achieve political agendas. That's all I'm saying. So basically, the price that I've just paid now at the pump and my fuel bills at home going through the roof, okay, it's a twofold reason. One, deliberately withholding extra production as we came out of the pandemic to make the price artificially high. And secondly, taking a decision for sanctions against Russia, which I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but knowing full well that we would pay the price. Thank you for listening. There's more to follow, I'm sure. So Dave, be better prepared. Thank you for listening.